Okay, I think we're live here, everybody. Welcome to the first Monday, February 5th for Coach's Corner. I have with me Ashley and Crystal. And there's a new baby in the background that we don't get to see. I thought there would be a debut, but
I'm sorry. She needs to be separated from me at this moment.
Ashley has a 5-day-old little girl, and she is still here looking amazing like that. So huge props to Ashley. She was expecting this baby to be a little bit older when we planned
Mhm.
this, but here we are. She looks amazing. Baby's amazing, and has a healthy set of lungs, as we heard a little bit ago.
I know, I'm sorry. If she pipes
No, don't
up,
be
then
sorry. It's amazing.
I'll mute myself.
So we got together a few days ago and started talking about what we were going to talk about with you guys today. I'm going to keep looking at my chat because I'm going to be monitoring the YouTube live. If you have any questions, you can put it there. Ashley's going to be monitoring Facebook and Crystal's the BYS as well. But the three of us got together and we kind of started talking about the common things that we are seeing in our current coaching clients, and they all kind of collide and are we're seeing the same thing. So we wanted to just really dive into a couple little things. If you have questions, they don't have to be about what we talk about, but we want to make sure that we're talking about what we're seeing, because if we're seeing it, there's probably more of you out there feeling it,
Mhm.
right?
Yep. Yep.
So I apologize. I keep looking down. I want to make sure I see the Facebook Live comments. I don't
I'm
see
gonna be
any right
doing the
now.
same
So
thing, so no
you
worries.
what?
I'm gonna be doing
Okay.
the
Well,
same thing. I have to look down to look at comments as well.
I see that there's something there, but I'm not seeing them. So I got to figure that out. So anyway, one of the things that I have started to really notice this year is, we're talking a lot about leads and generating leads and capturing leads. And I want to preface this with anybody that I am talking to. I'm not talking about just one person, because this keeps coming up in a lot of places. And I'm even going to kind of call myself out. We're talking about generating lead generation, getting all these people, and then we have them, but we haven't set up our systems or our nurturing protocols, and we don't really know what to do with them once we get them. Are you ladies seeing this? Ashley shaking her head.
Yeah, I think we were talking about overwhelm, and the topic came up of overwhelm and people having overwhelm and being overwhelmed. And so, even as we had this discussion tonight, I mean, please, you might have to be a little bit vulnerable to say what really feels like it's almost too much for you. Because overwhelm is a form of stress, right? So, whatever feels like too much right now, hopefully, we can help you navigate through some of those waters. But yeah, Rhonda said one of the biggest overwhelms for her and her clients was this whole aspects of lead generation, and they're putting in all this work, but are they seeing any results from it?
Right. And not just results, is they'll start to get the leads, but they don't have the systems, or they get that overwhelm. And I'm going to give you a really good example that happened with me with Social Oak. It took off so fast that I didn't have the right systems in the background to tag the right people, to put them in the right places, because I started this right when I started BDC and didn't know of all the amazing options out there. And I really struggled getting my stuff together, and I was kind of behind on everything, because what am I going to email them now, or what am I going to talk to them about, or how am I going to tag them, how am I going to have these conversations. So I think it's interesting now, watching as a coach my clients go through this. I did the same thing, and remember oh crap, I got too big too fast, right?
Mhm.
So I
Yes.
think setting up
Go.
those systems and being prepared. Would you say?
I said, go ahead. I was interrupting you by accident.
No, that's okay. So I think setting up those systems, being prepared for, I think for example, with my Social Oak, we get worried about Ash Tiptoes and what if only 2 people come? Well, what if 35 come? And then or when 35 come, are you ready for that overload? And do you have everything in place to be able to set it up and to really, really take it off, so that in a few months you have 200 people showing up, right?
Mhm.
So I think that's something that we need to talk about. Ashley, what are you going to say? I can tell there's something there.
Well, you're right. It's like not having the right action steps in place for you to execute something. So you're doing all this work, Rhonda, and you have everything set up, but you're almost like flying by the seat of your pants because you don't know what steps to do when. So it's like that execution part. You're executing, but like, are you getting the biggest bang for your buck? 'Cause you're always being creative, top of mind, making connections and moving people forward. But like, do you have the steps in place for the next time you do your next social oak?
Hmm. Yeah, so a lot
Oh,
of
Ron,
times we feel very overwhelmed. It's just because we're not organized. So if we have those steps in place, that will help kind of bring that stress down. You guys want me to go into white waters? I feel like this is kind of that time.
well, the overwhelm, I'm going to go into the overwhelm before. I think people need to look at their goals that they have set for the year. And so in Rhonda's topic, Rhonda's really talking about like that attraction and attracting people into whatever it is you're doing. I thought we lost her. Oh, she's back.
I was gone. I was frozen. Sorry about
You
that.
were frozen. I was like, oh.
So
Rhonda, where'd you lose off?
you were talking about that overload, and honestly, I don't know because I got all freaked out because I got booted.
It's all right, but it's like having steps in place for you. What are some things that now that you've done so many events, like to take away some of that overwhelm? Because you're right, you did grow too fast. And I think I think when we grow really fast, we're just flying by the seat of our pants. And so you're just being creative and executing, but you didn't really have anything set up and in place to do that on repeat.
I think what it is for us is really it was like the after the stuff. Like I can throw a party and have 200 people show up, but how am I nurturing them? How are we creating them from coming to our events to becoming patients, right? Other
Mm,
than just the meeting me and whatnot, but like how are we nurturing them even as social oak to make sure that they're not dropping off? Because having one event and nothing in the middle, you need to continue that relationship, right? That
yeah.
conversation, that piquing their interest. So making sure that your social media game is strong, making sure that you're sending out emails, having those drip emails set up ahead of time, I think was a real game changer to make sure that that momentum didn't stop. And we as a gang of five really sat down and thought about that as we grew bigger and bigger. Is how are we going to keep the engagement going all month and then making sure that they see us in person. And I think that goes right back into practice too, right? How are we going to keep our patients engaged or these new potential leads engaged? And where are we going to nurture that relationship so that it can grow?
What are some areas that you have set up now to nurture that? Like how many emails do you want to send out? How many text messages do you send? Are they to random
Right.
people? Are they to the whole group? Like what does it look like?
Right. So I think that was a big important part, especially I guess for patients, I guess in my chiropractic space, is really making sure that we're touching base at least weekly. I have a thing with email. I know that there are other people that are doing daily emails, and we talked about that amongst all of us coaches. I think you guys were both on the call, like, what's too much? What isn't enough? And I think you'll have to find that sweet spot. And it really does kind of also go back to your ideal client, right? And what they want.
Mm,
I remember somebody in our coaching group talking about that. Like she had a couple of people fall off that were ideal clients. And so there's different ways you can set up your email if they want to unsubscribe to say they only want one a week, right? I think that's a huge thing to have set up. So if you're going to do the daily, give that unsubscribe when they hit that unsubscribe button, make sure they have the option to not cut you off totally and that they're still
mhm.
getting a weekly check-in. I think, also it's not just email, making sure that we're doing the Instagram posts and Facebooks and yes, text messages. And I would actually take more text messages personally than I will emails because I just open them, read them, and let them go. What about you,
You're
ladies?
no, you're right about the unsubscribe aspect of it because I have patients all the time. They're like, "Why didn't I get that email?" I'm like, "Because you're not subscribed." And they're like,
Hmm.
"Well,
Yeah,
maybe in the beginning I unsubscribed, but now I would like those." I'm like, "Yeah, we didn't think that one through, did we?" We're going through it, but you're right. There also wasn't an option of like, okay, maybe just one email. I'll take one a week to get your, or even one a month to get all of your
right?
events and everything that you have going on. Yeah,
Hmm.
Yes.
didn't
I
think
think
that
that's
one through when
important,
we
giving
started
them
sending emails.
options.
Yeah,
We
I
do
So
said
have
what
a
were
didn't
you
think
going
that
to
one through. Didn't think that one through when we started sending emails. Just the only option was to unsubscribe. So
We do have a comment on Book Yourself Solid. I'm getting ready to get too big too fast. Are there some ways, this is not on there, but are there some ways that we can help prepare others if they're getting too big too fast? What are some tips and tricks that you ladies have been telling your clients how to prep themselves?
in what sphere are they speaking? Are they speaking like in a social oak sphere, like Rhonda was talking about? Are they talking like in their office, in their business? What way are they speaking? Because I think you could look at it a couple different ways. Like, is it
Let's
is
answer them
their
all.
you have to ask yourself, you're like, well, is your overwhelm coming because you don't have enough money to put into something? Is your overwhelm coming because you want to hire someone, but you don't know when the right time to do it? Is it getting people trained in time by the time the growth comes? Like, I think it could be a different answer just depending on what they're speaking
Mm.
into.
Mm-hmm.
I guess if they're speaking about kind of what we were talking about is making sure that you can nurture those leads, is making sure that you have a way to set up email responses, a way to set up text messages that you kind of like, I have a social media calendar, I have a text calendar, I have an email calendar. I know what's going to go out and when, and even just the drip emails, my year is already planned out. So at any point, somebody can come in and communication isn't going to just stop from me. So I think I'm assuming just because of what we were talking about, that's what they're asking. So I don't know if they responded, if we're answering their questions. Because I think Ashley's right. There's a lot of different overwhelm when you're just starting.
All right. She just said, I didn't say I was overwhelmed. I meant that I want to get too big. Teach me the systems. And I think, that's definitely not something we can do on a coach's corner call. That would be something that we would definitely have to, like one of the coaches would have to do a one-on-one with you, because it depends on where you're at. Are you, a service provider? Are you a real estate agent? Are you like what do you need? So that's, I think, one of the benefits of working with a coach, because you get that one-on-one just to help you develop some of those systems that you might need. So I don't think that's easily something answered on this call, but
Yeah.
Some of the overwhelm I've been seeing, I think, is people had set goals for the year. And so I think in their mind, they're like, oh, this is going to be easy. I have this goal set and now I'm just going to like start working towards it. But what they didn't do was break it down so that they could actually follow that goal in a direction. So let's say their financial goal was to hit 1 million this year. But then what they forgot to do was to go through and break it up month by month. Like, okay, how much do I need to be bringing in each month to make this happen? Which, if you're in the chiropractic realm, you're like, okay, my dollar visit average is this much, which means I have to do this many visits within that time to make this happen. If that's my capacity and I can't do that. And so I think reverse engineering a lot of these goals, whether you're talking about lead attraction and how many people you want to reach, and then of those, Rhonda, this is a personal question. Do you know what percentage of people that you would like convert into your office for something like Social Oak? Or is that one really, are you really just utilizing that to nurture relationships and relationship capital long term?
I know that I get about 4 to 5 patients a month from Social Oak on
Good.
average. But
Yeah.
not only that, they're already a part of like, they know what I'm doing, they know what they're going to get. So that pre-call, like that pre-qualification is
Mm-hmm.
pretty much already done. So they're also who I want. So it's
Yeah. These
different
are like,
than getting the others.
this is like all your ideal clients.
Right. So
Do
they're
you
already, God,
do you create your Social Oak for your target market and your ideal client?
100%. My very first thing, if you're going to do an Ash tiptoe and you don't know who your ideal client is, you shouldn't be doing an Ash tiptoe. I tell
Yeah,
everybody that. I'm like,
you're not putting ash tiptoes on for blue collar men that,
right. Because
yeah,
I don't know what
understand.
Jerry, the 65-year-old semi truck driver, wants to do on a Thursday night. I know what my Ashley wants to do. My Ashley, not you. Although I think you'd
Oh,
fall right into it. I think you'd be right there, girl. but I know what Ashley wants to do. So I think that that's, I truly think a lot of this stuff is if you don't know who you're trying to attract and you don't know who your ideal client is, truly that to me is like number one, period.
That's
Mhm.
fair. And then having those
Yeah.
action steps that you can put in place so you have a system built up so you can do this on repeat is really,
So I
really
know
important.
how many Ashleys I need to hit 1 million every week. Mhm. Yes.
Um, One of the things, Crystal, that you wanted to talk about, we were discussing overwhelm, and you're like, yeah, I'm having overwhelm, but realistically, a lot of my clients have been talking about white water. And a lot of people on here might not know what that means. Unpack that a little bit, and then from there, we can go into some of the issues that they're dealing with.
So a lot of times when we feel some of that overwhelm, we are entering white water. So what that looks like is when you start to feel a lot of resistance in your business, you have to adapt quickly. Maybe you're having to make quick decisions. That is a good indication that you are entering those white waters or quickly approaching those white waters. And a lot of times that itself can be very overwhelming, but the way we need to look at that though is that that's a very positive thing. If we have, maybe we hired a new marketing firm and we have so many leads coming in and we don't know what to do with them. That's a great problem to have, right? We want to create those big problems because that is a sign of growth. Well, on the other side of that, a lot of times businesses they will quit because it gets tough. And we need to push past it because we are on a brink of a breakthrough. Something big's about to happen. We just have to find that strength to be able to push through that. So, what does that look like for you? Maybe it's hiring somebody to manage all those leads. Maybe it's, having systems in place or time organization or something in place to help you, get to that next level. Or maybe you're changing office culture and you're, trying to go from a very toxic office culture to a very, positive, healthy one. And you're having a lot of staff turnover. But on the other side of that, you're going to have a great office culture that is going to be attracting the people that you want to be seeing. Because if you have a toxic culture, your patients or whoever is going to be, they're going to recognize that as soon as they walk in the door. So, just some tips for going through those white riders because they can get to you a little bit. They can create some of that self-doubt. They can really kind of have an effect on sometimes your mental health too. So this is a couple of my clients right now are dealing with this. So what I tell them, I have like 3 little tips here. Keeping your focus on your vision. So what is your vision for your business? Where is it headed? Because that's going to help you kind of look ahead and, okay, I need to get through this to get here. And what I find is the more resistance I have with something, the harder something is, the more of a reward there is on the other side of that. So you don't get out of life what you want, you get out of life what you believe. So sometimes if you have a lot of that resistance, you need to figure out if there's some kind of limiting belief too, because that can really cause a lot of, struggles later on too. And there's a deeper thing happening there. So we really need to tackle that mindset too. So we need to tackle that head on. And if you have a coach, that would be a great thing to bring to them. Okay, this is what I'm struggling with. This is what, I'm telling myself. And, how do I get through this? So number 2, change up your routine. You guys know if you keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, it kind of kills your being creative. So just changing things up a little bit, keeping things a little bit more interesting. And then 3, taking time to be with or to do or be with what matters most. So for some of us, that's, spending time with our family. For some of us, that's hobbies, but just taking a little bit of a break from that, every night or like an hour or whatever, just so that you can push hard the next day to get you past that white ladder. And then just to, encourage you guys, if if anybody here just they feel like they're not on that whitewater, but they want to go into that growth mode, sometimes you have to enter white waters and you have to actively seek it out in order to get into that growth mode. Or maybe you're in startup mode. You have to get through those to get to the next step. So pick the hardest thing that you need to do to get you there, because a lot of times we pick things to do in our business that we're just kind of sort of doing, and then it doesn't get us where we need to go, and then we get discouraged and we say, well, this isn't working. Or we keep talking ourselves down, and then that leads to people wanting to quit or businesses wanting to quit. So if we keep pushing past that, okay, what's the hardest thing, and you go all in on it, that is going to get you to the next step. So sometimes we have to actively seek out those white waters if you're not in it already.
It's funny you mentioned the routine, and I don't know, this is a weird random fact about me that I got from BDC, and I don't know if I've ever actually admitted it out loud because it's silly. I remember them saying routine is the killer of creativity. So
Yes.
I take a different way to work every day. Like, I only have a few different ways to choose. But even today, ironically, I turned down a road I don't normally turn down, and just to make sure that I'm not constantly doing the same thing. And you think differently, because if you think about it, when you go to work the same way every day, like, you're on autopilot and your same thoughts are going through your head and nothing really changes. And I even see the same, black car next to me and the same person every day. So I've now, like, almost, I try to take a different way to work and a different way home. And even this morning, I took a different way. But I also
Uh,
wanted you to touch Crystal on haters, because you mentioned that.
On
Was it
what?
Crystal or Ashley? Who mentioned the haters?
Oh, that
Crystal.
was me. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
thought you were going to touch on that too when you were
Yeah.
talking.
So, so a lot of times as we start to put ourselves out there, maybe we're doing more videos, maybe we're doing a lot more marketing, doing calls like this, or just doing the community events. We put ourselves out there and we are showing people who we are. We're showing people who we are personally. We're showing people like what our businesses are, things that we're doing. But the more out there you get, like the more traction you get, the more haters you are going to get. And we have to really accept that. And we kind of have to grow some thicker skin for it, just because if you don't like everyone, so you can't expect everyone to like you. And right now what I'm thinking of is like Taylor Swift right now. Like, Taylor Swift has all these people that absolutely love her, and they have people that hate her for absolutely no reason. Or she's going to a football game, and people are hating her because she's at the football game, but she's just there to support her boyfriend. And like, no matter what you do, you are always going to have somebody that doesn't like you because of whatever. They're jealous, or they just don't believe what you believe, or whatever. But do you like you? So you have to kind of look to yourself and look in the mirror. Do you like who you've become? And if you do, who cares what everybody else thinks? So, who cares if you did a video and you weren't perfect? Who cares what you looked like? I mean, how are you showing up though? Like, are you showing up the way that you want people to perceive you as? So, taking a look at your behaviors too, that mirror moment, like, do you frequently ask, other businesses for a discount, or do you frequently not show up to your appointments, but then you expect people to show up on time for yours, or you expect people to pay full price for, your services? So it's that mirror moment. Who are you showing up as, and do you like that? And if you do, then that's all that matters. So
There's so much to unpack there. You're right. I really dislike Taylor Swift, but do you think she gives two craps that I dislike her? No, she doesn't care as she's bringing in money left and right. Like, she doesn't care.
Yep.
But yeah, you're 100% right. There's so much to unpack here, realistically. I think the first thing, Rhonda, I agree with you. I take a different way to work. I try to. And even the other night we were driving home, my husband's like, "Why would you go this way? Like I've never once driven this way. Why are we driving this way?" I was like, "I don't know. I'll take this way every couple days. All of a sudden I'll be like on this road." He's like, "I don't understand." I'm like, "It's the same amount of time. Who cares?" Um, and then also, I think our limiting beliefs are incredibly important. I had a doctor, and his conversion rates from he was doing his PICU calls going great, seeing new patients, that was going great. And then on his second day, when he's like finishing closing everything and they're signing off on finances, he was getting people that were saying no. And I was like, this you're the only one, because everyone else's conversion rates are in the 90s. So it's something with you. I don't want to be a jerk, but obviously it is. It's not the process, but it's a headspace thing. And so I made him be the doctor at our Monday meetings. I would be like, okay, here's where we're looking for evidence. And it's evidence of this. And I kept a lot of it around money and around mindset for him. And as soon as he started his evidence journal, just like Lacey says, as soon as he started that and started looking for evidence, the mind shifted, and what he was looking for shifted, and he's like, oh my gosh, you're right, it was me. And it was the whole time, because as soon as he started doing that, his conversion rates went back up to where everybody else's were. And so just doing that one small exercise with one person on your team that was kind of bringing the average down for the rest, that mindset changed everything, which was super awesome. Gosh, you said something else that I absolutely love that I wanted to feed into. I think that this one is hard for people. I think like I said before, vulnerability is very real. And I mean, even with myself in our practice, when you're in a community, I knew in the community I wanted to be like the pinnacle of true healthcare, not sickness care, but like healthcare in our community. But when you're in a smaller town, Crystal, you're in a way smaller town than I'm in.
Yeah.
I'm in 100,000. Yours is way smaller.
Yeah.
Um,
2,100.
but I wanted to make sure that there was an impact, which means people have to know your name. They have to know what you do. They have to know your name to make an impact. And so I kind of had to get over it. And when you're I'm not saying everybody on here is a chiropractor. We all have our own thing, but myself being a chiropractor, you almost have this secondary citizen thing behind like MDs and, oh, could you not get into med school? I'm like, no, I actually schooled all of those people and I still chose to be in chiropractic. Like that's not the case. But it's those things where you had to go through and be like, okay, they're making people sick. I'm making people healthy. They're slowly killing people. I'm doing this. And you have to like almost go back and forth between those two to realize what you bring to the table. And then you have to be completely unapologetic moving forward. And now at this point, because I have a hero complex and that's my own thing, um, I have to have an enemy. Like I have to have an arch rival before I start anything. So even when we were trying to get Google reviews, there was a chiro in town and he had so many, and I'm like, I'm gonna smoke this guy. He doesn't even know that he's my arch rival. It doesn't even matter because it doesn't. But I had to know, like, what am I going in for and what am I trying to move past, whether it's my limiting belief and other doctors, a whatever it may be. But to make an impact, people are gonna know you. And sometimes it's
Right.
uncomfortable. So you have to figure out, are you okay with that? And then if you're not, then you also have to know that you're not going to make that lasting effect in the world and into society that you actually want to do.
Mm-hmm. Have the
So
courage to be unliked.
So at the last, I think I told you girls this, at the last marketing in Miami, I wrote in my book, I want more haters. And it was super uncomfortable because again, like that is my fear. Like you said, even putting my content out for coaching, like people are going to think I'm what I say is dumb or wrong or whatever. I think, yes, the stigma as a chiropractor was way more, and it's a lot easier to talk about coaching. But I think that I wrote, I want more haters. And I have two examples. It was ironic. I came home when I did the $100 tabs around town. I did it two back to back in this one shopping complex. One, I heard the one business was going to be going out of business, that they were literally about to close their door, and I didn't want that to happen. And it was about, just after COVID. So that was the first reason that I chose the other one. The second one I chose because they were my patients and they had just opened a business and I wanted to support them. What I never even considered when choosing them, they were on each side of a chiropractor. And he and I were friends. I stopped by when I was over there one day and he looked at me and goes, "Get out of my complex." He was so mad that I did $100 tabs. I was like, hater number one, check. So I was pretty excited about that. And then he was super mad that I was giving tabs to businesses in his plaza. And but I said, well, you could have done it.
Yeah,
He
like, because he
went
was
off
already
on
doing
me.
it? Is that why he was
So
upset? Because
what
I
I
already
found out is that, right, he's not mad at me. He's mad that I'm the one doing it and not him.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Right. And the second thing that I came home to, and I guess these are things that like you guys have to realize we all go through it, right? Like we're sitting
Mhm.
up here as the coaches and we experience the same thing. And I know that my social oak group really upset the chamber at one point, and I had to call and kind of ease things over because it wasn't our intention. Our intentions had nothing to do with them, and honestly, what we were doing, we didn't even consider them. But as you grow, like you said, and as you're becoming known in your community, you are not everybody's going to love you, and that's okay. I do have a t-shirt that says I'm not for everybody, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, sometimes we also grow out of relationships that we've already established, and that can be really, really hard. But sometimes it's necessary in order for us to get to that next level. Because sometimes we take a look at the people around us, and if they're holding us back in any way, we need to reevaluate them, and we need to, maybe they're our bottom 10%. We need to knock them down so that we can have room for somebody that's really going to help us grow and evolve into this amazing entrepreneur that we really want to be, or that we, believe to be. So sometimes growing out of those relationships, we have to recognize that, and sometimes within that, you get haters as well.
Right.
Yeah,
And we
definitely
talk.
watch. Go ahead,
Go
Rhonda.
ahead. No, go ahead.
I was like, definitely watch those 5 closest relationships, right? Anytime we talk about like your gang of 5, or even look at the 5 people that you hang out with the most, it could be one of those times where now we've grown past this group of people and it sucks and it's uncomfortable, but equally, I mean, you have 4 smokers in a group, you're the 5th one. You get 4 millionaires in the group, you're the 5th one. And so as you grow, you got to watch those personal, close relationships even more so than the haters, because it's those close relationships that are actually going to truly influence you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we just talked about this with one of my clients, that we were saying that sometimes we're not just afraid of failure, but we actually are afraid of success because of who it brings into our lives and who it can take out of our lives.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So you guys, I found this cool thing on the side. Nobody else sees this. I can see all the chats, Facebook user and YouTube on the side. So the three of us are sitting here looking at our phones, and I found it all on the side of this app. I don't know if you guys can see it, because somebody
Mm-mm.
said not everybody wants to be happy, and then somebody else said truth to one of the things we were talking about.
That's Miss
So I don't
Lacey
know if you guys
Book.
are. I can only see Facebook user. I love that it's Miss Lacey Book. So, yes, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I was really excited when I can see everything.
Thank you, Lacey. Yes, I did just have a baby. Rhonda already shouted it out. I appreciate that. Oh, I had to keep a commitment. I can't say yes to everyone in Black Diamond Club and everyone that supports me so much, and then what, flake on them? Can't do it.
5 days old, and she
Mhm.
looks like that. I'm your newest hater, girl. No, I'm kidding. You look great. I love
Please,
it. I've always been a fangirl of you. We know
please,
that.
please. Um, At this moment, I mean, I think we should take a time out. Like, does anyone have questions or want to go through, like I said, it's vulnerable, talking about areas where they might feel overwhelmed, areas where they might feel like they're moving into whitewater, areas where they feel like this hater aspect, I need to move through it and I don't know how. Anybody have questions or follow-up that they want to go through?
Not seeing a whole lot. I know there's people watching because I can see that too.
Mhm.
What have you
So
learned? Oh, this is a fantastic question. What have you learned from your haters? That's a
it's about
fantastic question.
them. It's about them,
Mhm.
not me. I think that's kind of one of the biggest things that I was saying with the last person when he came at me and said, you know, stay out of my plaza. And I said, but I didn't even consider him, and not in an ugly way that I wasn't thinking about it. I was like, oh, I'm going right to his place and pulling his people. But, he was mad at me. And the same thing with Social Oak in one of our events that we had when the chamber saw this event sell out so quickly. I think that they need to, like, in us Social Oak, my gang of five, we sat down and talked about it. And one of the things that we really ended up saying about it was they need to consider what we're doing and maybe how they can change. So not that, like what we're doing is creating interest and people are excited to see it. So, so I think that it was more about about them, not so much about us. And we must be doing something right if we're sticking out in their head.
Exactly. So we do have a question from Book Yourself Solid. What do you do when the haters get physical or life-threatening? And I mean, you have to get, if they're getting physical or life-threatening, you have to get police involved or you have to get someone else involved. And if it comes to a restraining order or, whatever it looks like, then there needs to be some kind of outside help that steps in, because if they're getting life threatening or physical, then that's a whole nother ball game.
Heck yeah, Rhonda, they probably live in Detroit by you. This sounds like a Detroit issue. I live by meek Oregonians that are so meek that that's not going to happen.
Doesn't happen out there way on the West Coast in no man's land, but
No,
here
that's
in
just like a
Detroit,
Philly issue and a Detroit issue, and no, never.
yeah,
They can
I've
even
not
raise the
had
voice
any
here.
life I've not had any physical or life threatening for sure. And yes, I am in the Detroit area. So, and
Mhm.
actually, you know what? I'm more afraid of Flint. You guys talk about Detroit. I'm 30
Sorry,
minutes south of Flint.
you're
So
right.
they don't talk about that. I'm right in the middle of Detroit and Flint. So,
I do like
but
the haters comment. When I think about what I've learned is it's always a gut check for me.
Mhm.
I always have to think like, what was my true intention when I did this? And usually whatever they say, it was never that, but it always comes back and I'm like, was that my intent? And then it actually helps me really get back to like, okay, what's my vision? What's my mission? And then what was my true intention behind it? Was it just about making the money? Was it just about growing just for the sake of it? Like, what was it? And so I mean, a hater's comments are usually pretty valuable only for it helps you like recenter and reset exactly what you're doing and why you're doing it.
I agree. Sometimes just learning from what people are saying. So you're right. Like if they're saying, oh, they, used to do this and don't do this anymore. Like if it's an old patient or something like that, then that's a learning experience. But for me, it's, do I feel like what I'm doing is the best possible? And if it is, and coming from like a self-love aspect too, like, do I like who I am? Do I like who I'm showing up as? Do I like what I'm giving out? And if it is, sometimes people are just really unhappy with themselves and they're frustrated that they aren't that they're not maybe stepping up to the plate like I am and maybe not putting in as much work. But I do agree with you too. Sometimes it is a gut check. Sometimes it is something that, oh, okay, so, they're saying this, maybe I need to reevaluate and maybe maybe I can get better from this.
goes back to your mirror, right? And
Hmm.
honestly, I think when they're the haters, they need to check the mirror.
Fantastic comment. It
Mhm.
says they say someone who is doing more than you will never attack you. It's always those that are doing less.
Who
Yeah.
is this person? I like them. Let's be friends.
You are friends.
Oh, we are
You are
friends?
friends.
Oh,
You are
good.
friends, just so you know.
If we're not, we're gonna be by the end of this call.
Yes, it's true.
I do like knowing more people, so. Oh, I see that's the only bad thing about the side thing, that you can't see who it is saying it.
Mm.
Any
Any
other
other
comments?
go.
No, same thing. Any other comments, questions about any of this? I mean, I could sit on here and just talk to these girls like we did last time. So with or without your comments, I get all kinds of information and insight talking to both of you, and I really enjoy it. So I like just being here for myself, as selfish as it sounds, to hear what you guys have to say.
I think our last topic was about being prepared, and
Ooh,
I love that, Crystal, that cat just popped out.
Yeah, sorry.
Um,
I'm trying to keep her down, but yeah, she's wanting to hug
um, it
us.
was about being prepared, and so I think this being prepared comment could filter back into anything we've already talked about. It could be, what you're working on, Rhonda, with other clients as far as lead generation and actually, like, honing those and what that looks like, being prepared for that growth. Crystal, it could looks like yours too, preparedness into moving into whitewater and what that looks like, or being able to navigate through haters, or even the idea for me, preparedness wise, it's almost a reflecting back on what you wanted when you were setting goals. And then from there, taking those goals and making sure, I think my preparedness is more reflection. What have I started on? What have I not started on? What do I have steps and I have systems moving me forward to implement these things? And then else do I need to start for these other things to start moving forward? The last thing you want to do is start a goal 6 months in to a 12-month goal that you have set for yourself. So being prepared, I think a lot has to go into reflection and reflecting on what have you done already? What have you not done? And what do you need to start doing?
and being brutally honest with yourself with all of it.
And for
Definitely.
me, it happens every night. I'll go through my planner and what is the one thing that I could do before bed that will help me get to what my vision is, or what is the one thing that I need to get done tomorrow to propel me forward, or this month, what do I need to focus on this month to propel me forward? But for me, every single night, looking back through some of those goals that you have, because it reminds you of where you're headed. And then it reminds you, okay, you need to get this done. Otherwise, you're not going to get from A to B. So that self-reflection every night, I think, is super important.
Crystal, I love that. That's one of my favorite books is The Greatest Salesman in the World. And one of the scrolls is doing one more thing. And so one
Mhm.
of the scrolls, he opens it and it's like, what is the one last thing I can do today that basically nobody else in your arena is doing? What's the one last phone call you can make, the one last text message you could send to follow up with somebody? What's the one last thing that others aren't doing? I always love that.
I like that.
And then Rhonda, what do you got for preparedness?
For being prepared, I think again, and I'm just going to go off of like the Ash Tiptoe on the social look aspect. I think so
Hmm.
many people are more afraid of only having one person there, and they're not getting ready for when they have 200 there. So
Hmm.
making sure that they are thinking ahead and not worried about what they have today, but what they will have later, and making sure that they have a way to sustain it and keep it going. Because and I'm just going off the Ash Tiptoe alone, because that's what I do work a lot on that with people, but making sure that they're ready for as they grow, and being prepared to have that gang of five, to have a team, to have roles, and just looking ahead at that, not worrying about the two people that you might have there today, but the 200 you'll have there in a couple months.
Mhm.
Yeah, preparing as if.
Yeah. Yes.
That's yeah, I think anytime you have growth, you always have to prepare as if. So if it comes to chiropractic and you're adjusting 40 people, well, you have to prepare and put things in place as if you're already seeing 100. And so if you have an event that has 5 at it, well, you have to prepare as if there's 200 at it. And what does that look like?
Mhm.
Yes. And be
Yeah.
ready, because it'll happen.
Mhm. And that's another thing.
What
We
about
don't get
you?
what we want, we get what we believe. So if you know that that's going to happen, you believe that that's going to happen, you need to prepare for it.
I didn't know it was going to happen. I just started BDC.
You didn't prepare as if, and that's okay.
You know what? It worked.
You're
It works.
helping other
All my
people
mistakes,
prepare.
I can help you learn from what I did wrong.
That's good.
For sure. Yes. Any
Any
last
other
thoughts,
comments?
Ashley?
What?
Any last thoughts from you?
No. I think we're good to go.
I think we did good. If anybody does have questions, you guys can always friend us on Facebook. Um, if you friend Ashley, text me and I'll let her know. I love it. Maybe find her on Instagram. Are you
Find
better?
me on
Yeah,
Instagram. I'll see you
Ashley.
there. I'll see you on
Yes,
Instagram.
find Ashley on Instagram. She will answer your friend request on Facebook eventually, but find her on Instagram first.
Yep.
Crystal, does that you're pretty active on Facebook. They can find you there and Instagram. If you guys
Yeah.
have any questions for Crystal um, and in the Black Diamond Club group and the Book Yourself Solid group. Same thing for me. I'm on Facebook and Instagram as well. If you guys have any other questions that you didn't want to feel vulnerable and say out loud in front of everybody, we are here for it and would love to take your questions if you have any. And I don't know who is the next Coach's Corner. I wish I did to help let you guys know and be prepared, but I was not. But we are always the first Monday of the month at 8:30 Eastern time. Hopefully this new setup, I hope that you book yourself solid, people. We found a way to be live in all the groups because I know before we had a hard time. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. And this is going to happen the first Monday of every month at 8:30 with different coaches. So bringing different ideas and concepts to you.
Okay, I have the next coaches here for March 4th.
Oh,
We have Rico, we have Dr. Julie, we have James.
what Julie? What Dr.
So,
Julie?
Kat, I don't know how to say her last name. Kat? Is that how you say it?
Oh no, Julie Weiss.
Oh,
Yeah, because we have Julie Bronze and Julie Weiss. So
Yeah, I was like, wait, I don't know who that is.
she has a CAPP, like the CACCP for pediatrics.
gotcha,
Yeah.
gotcha. How do you?
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you guys. Hope you had as much fun as I did.
I did. Bye, you guys. Thanks.
Bye.